All right, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq continue to make higher highs and making all-time highs every single day. But tomorrow really will test this to see if this can continue on this trend or if the overall inflation is back and if inflation truly is done. But today we had a pretty big talk and we saw Fed Powell really double down on a statement saying that the highlights of the market right now are that jobs are slowing, and that could be the major signal that we need for those rate cuts to occur. But again, the ultimate goal is getting back to 2%. Now, what do we know from the Fed is that we don't have to get all the way to 2% on inflation before we cut rates. However, we have to be clearly on that path. So multiple months will potentially give Fed Powell that confidence. Now, on the other side of this as well, we go and look at some of the news that's at play here also, and you can see more of the tone of what's really happening there from Powell. Now, we saw from this again is, from an investment bank official, so just take it for what it is, okay? And one of the Fed governors. The tide has turned, said former Fed Governor Lawrence Meyer. In a note to clients on Wednesday, Powell was careful to avoid pre-committing, which we know he's very careful with this, he doesn't want to say that we have to cut rates or this is happening. He wants to always be in the Fed hands of when they're going to do something and not any political hands or anyone else besides the Fed, right? He made it very clear the past 2 days that they are independent, right? Pre-committing to any moves by dropping counter-based hints, having been burned by disappointing inflation readings earlier this year. But his comments suggest that he thinks inflation is back on track while the labor market is on the edge of unwanted slowdown. You also need to understand, this is something that's very important for Powell. The edge of unwanted slowdown, because although Powell's in charge of monetary policy, one of the major factors that he has to take into account is the overall health of the market and the jobs market as a whole. And if the job market is in danger, then this could be a giant red flag, and Powell has to kind of take precedent of that being the most important thing as far as the ultimate economy not getting absolutely decimated, because if everyone lost their jobs, it could really spiral the economy. So he's definitely playing with fire here right now. And so again, that's why the market is definitely pricing in better inflation and rate cuts coming sooner than later. Again, overall, you have not made a lower low on the S&P 500 since essentially April, April 19th is the last time we really put in, and that wasn't even a lower low. You've really been net bullish since November. That's a really important thing to keep in the top of your mind, is how good the stock market has been moving. So that's where we're at, and that's how we're moving. Now today, I wish I could give you levels and saying watch this level and watch this level into tomorrow, and if this happens, you're going to drop here or pump to here. But the reality is you're at all-time highs, okay? And I've been saying something very, very clearly, that you have more to risk as far as more downside than there is upside. What does that mean? In my opinion, again, the market is pricing in good data and that we're going to continue on this track, which seems likely. But the other part of this is if data comes out unexpected and inflation resurges, when I really do believe sellers will take control quickly. Now, I'm not betting on the downside opportunity. I'd be foolish to bet only on the upside after so much upside and after all the gains that we've already made. So it's really a tale of caution for myself. We go back and we look at CPI overall data and what's happened here. And this has been really important over the past few days because it really gives you a viewpoint on what's really happening here. So if I go over here and I look at the overall SPY volume in the past 2 days, it's been pretty pathetic. Yesterday's volume was record-breaking low, 27 million on the trading volume on SPY, and today 33 million. Still pretty terrible, all things considered, okay? But again, what do we know here? So T-2, T-1, the day before, the 2 days before on CPI. Typically low volume, as you can see, lower volume. And then the dark blue represents the day of CPI, which is typically your highest volume of that week, right? As you can see, typically, even though we've been trending down on volume, it's still been the peak of a majority of our volume, except for the exception of October and September, okay? And then you also have the day after, T+1, which typically is your second or even in some cases your highest volume days. And we have PPI coming out as well on Friday, T+1. So very important that we're taking into account of this. So we knew that volume was going to be lackluster here. Now, what I will say, though, is the continuation with low volume just signals how weak sellers in the market really are. And that is definitely a major sign of concern on the broad market, okay? So those are the big things right now. But data that you'll be looking for confirmation of downside, especially on the longer term view, we're gonna go to the dollar. And as you can see here, we wanna see the dollar, and you can see the dollar the past 3 days making no decision, just trending sideways. Makes logical sense where we're at, okay? That makes sense, okay? And I don't expect too much to change on this until CPI, okay? And that'll be tomorrow morning, 7:30. So we get below the 200 SMA. I think sellers take control. That'll be a big sign there. Now, the yields paint the biggest picture. Again, the yields have been more bearish, in my opinion, clearly holding below, trying to make that push down towards 4.2 and ultimately 4% on the overall 30-year yields, which is where we were back in January, okay? Now, again, for anyone wondering yields and what matters here, right? It really comes back down to loans and then more importantly to you and me, the consumer, 30-year fixed mortgages on buying homes in the home market in general. Now we can see back in November to October, you kind of topped out there, right? That was kind of like your peak of interest rates on your home, 8%, pretty crazy, right? If you locked in a rate there, you are a madman. Now, if we look as of recent in January, when you got really down there near 4% almost, you were at around 6.6, 6.5. And you put in a lower high here around 7.5, and now you're making lows again, pushing back down. So again, as we get closer to rate cuts and the 30-year yield drops, you're going to see mortgage rates drop. What happens when the housing market becomes more affordable? Typically, the market heats up as well. So those are things to be considering, to be watching, and really what I'm watching on the broad market also. So understand that this is all ties in together. And if you don't understand, ask down below. I'll try to go over it. Okay. So those are the big things. And again, tomorrow morning, this is what you have to expect as you go into the calendar. No reason to overcomplicate this tomorrow. And then also going into Friday. Again, so we have our CPI 7:30 a.m. Central. That's Central, an hour before market open for CPI, all that data coming in there. And then on Friday, you're going to have your PPI, more inflation data there, okay? I will say CPI is more important than PPI, so take that into account. That's what you're watching for there. No reason to overcomplicate it. Again, today's video won't be as long as the others. Not a lot of stuff I can really cover, but let's just run down through some stocks, expectations, and kind of the names that I'd be watching if we get good data and where I'd watch them for if we get bad data. Now, number one, let's go over Bitcoin. I don't know why more people aren't tracking Bitcoin and what's happening here. I say this plenty of times. If Bitcoin remounts above, like on a higher time, like a 4-hour or a daily time frame above the 200 moving average on the daily, it's a long. But until then, it's a terrible, terrible long. So anyone buying, like at least like for a short-term trade or even like a few day trades, makes no sense. Okay, below this level, you remount this, you have a lot more confidence back in the 64, 62K in a hurry. But again, you're rejecting there, and it looks, in my opinion, like this could be setting up. Okay, don't shoot the messenger. But it could be setting up for a bear flag. I'm just going to tell you that right now. And if data comes out bad, there's a high chance that Bitcoin gets destroyed in a hurry. So definitely be watching that. Again, I'm not trading Bitcoin, but again, once you get back above that, it looks really good. Okay, going into stocks as a whole. Now, some of these names I've talked about a lot. I can't cover them too much here, right? Like, and I'm not going to do too many options here today, guys. Typically, if you're used to the channel, I use my broker and I go over what options I'm trading and what I'd be looking at. I'm not going to do too much of that today because, again, it's a lot of hypotheticals into tomorrow. And again, I'll just talk about levels, what I'm watching there, and kind of where I'm going from there. So, let me know if you have questions. Again, I'll try to cover those. I'll have more stuff posted on Twitter tomorrow as the data comes out. So make sure you're following on Twitter. The link is down below. Tyler Wilson 119 is the Twitter. But again, I'll post all these updates. Not a lot have been going on the past day or so, just because again, like data hasn't come out yet. So Apple. A lot of people ask about Apple, guys. I went long on Apple near 210, 206. I don't know what else to say. We got 2025 contracts. They're killing it. Can't do nothing here. I think the next stock that looks similar to Apple is going to be Amazon. You're making higher lows, you're holding up, and you're just sitting at $200. I think if data comes out good, I think Amazon is a really nice trade. I think it breaks into 204, 205. You have earnings around the corner, so be careful with that. But I do like Amazon a lot. If data comes in bad, I think you're going to get shot down. I'm going to tell you that right now. I think it's a high possibility. And I'm going to tell you right now, my target here, conservatively would be back down to like 191, 192, but I think it's highly possible to go back into your previous all-time high of 188, 189 in a hurry. I think it would happen in a hurry. So again, on good data, I think it's a great, awesome opportunity upside. Down, bad data, it's going to get ugly. Meta's been another big name I've been talking about a lot. Is you're kind of pinching sideways here. And this is your previous all-time high around 531. So again, holding 531 on like the hourly, 15-minute, etc., you're just sitting here. We saw how volatile Meta got, and we like this consolidation here. This is what you want to see. If you get a solid hold here, good data, I think Meta pushes back into all-time highs and gets another great push, especially ahead of their earnings. Now, remember, you need to, like, very important to remember, the next 2 weeks, like, earnings season does start. So you're going to see some of these bigger names. I think Meta reports at the end of July. You're going to have Tesla and Netflix are like your first names up. I think Netflix reports next week. Tesla the beginning of the week after that. So, again, head on a swivel. But, again, some of these names look really good. Really good opportunities, broad market. Definitely watching them. So Netflix, Meta, very interesting. Netflix, you have been pulling back. You couldn't hold 689. You almost got into all-time highs, rejected. The story here too, guys, and I don't use my volume indicator on these videos a lot. It just clutters, makes things a little bit ugly. But the story has been here, like, just low volume on Netflix, like no follow through. And I talk a lot about getting higher volume when you get a breakout, and you just didn't get that. And Netflix kind of pulled back. I think it's setting up for an interesting earnings, and I'm kind of holding the brakes on Netflix now. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. Definitely slamming on the brakes. Also ahead of earnings, I'm watching CrowdStrike. Big name here. I mentioned this one in Discord. So you actually broke your ascending triangle, broke down, but you remounted your previous all-time high right here, 365. I was like literally talking about this morning in Discord when you broke below. So if you got in around that area, awesome buying opportunity. You did not go for any gap fill or anything like that. So definitely watching CrowdStrike closely into this data, because I think CrowdStrike will push into 400. But again, the big thing you've been waiting for here too, to be conservative, is a mount above 393. If you mount 393 on like a 30-minute, a 1 hour time frame, I think you look really good. You just have been rejected every time you open above that level. So those have been very important things to be watching, what I'm watching. And again, I think a lot of the warning signs are right there in front of us for the most part. So there's no reason to like panic or overtrade or FOMO into these, right? Like, you got to wait for the retest. You got to, I say this all the time too. I said it on Twitter today. Guys, every time in this market, whether you like it or not, like, every time you've broken out, you've gotten a retest. So, like, for instance, on Nasdaq, when you broke out here on July, the day 4th of July, right? You broke out, you retest on Thursday, the 4th of July. And then on Friday, you break back down, 8:30, you retest. Like, you're going to get your retest, guys. It's going to happen. Now, sometimes you'll miss out. But, like, for the most part, there's no reason to have to be the first one in at all points in time. If you're trying to be the first one in, you're probably going to be the first one stopped out. So make sure you understand that. Like, it's not about, getting the perfect entry every time. It's about making sure you have a system that's setting you up to win. That's the biggest thing I can say. And if your system is like set up to where you could take big losses, and I don't necessarily know if you're set up to win in this market and win in markets as a whole. So definitely things to be thinking about. And what, in my opinion, what I'm watching all day throughout the day. Microsoft, and this is something that I traded today on the day in Discord as well. You had this really volatile drop to the downside, and there was not much liquidity, and you remount this. Now, Microsoft ahead of this data is really interesting. So they have a lot of stuff going on with Apple, and I think that's just big in itself. But again, if Microsoft remounts 468, you're pushing into all-time highs, obviously. But I'd be looking for like a 472, 474 push here with ease on Microsoft. As you regain this, buyers really step back up here. You didn't even retest previous all-time highs back here. This is what you really like to see. You're making higher highs, higher lows, not even getting some of the retests sometimes. That's awesome. So Microsoft above 468 has a lot of potential. Again, though, I want to make this like really, as much as I like these stocks, guys, again, there's a reason I'm liquid. There's a reason I'm not YOLOing. There's a reason I'm being patient here. Because I know if I get too aggressive here, data comes out bad, most of these trades are going to get slaughtered. So if tomorrow morning data comes out bad, I'm not looking for the upside. I'll make that really clear, okay? I'm not. So overall, this is what I'm watching, broad markets. And my last one, guys, last name is going to be Google. I think Google's ready to just rip here. Again, as long as you're above right here, previous all-time high, 191.37. I think you look amazing. Going to tell you that right now. That was from yesterday. So, again, Google looks very strong above 191 as a whole. Would be watching it. Broad market, very bullish. I have to mention one more name, guys. AMD. Again, if you're not following on Twitter, do what you got to do, man. I don't know what to tell you. But I told you guys this morning, AMD juicer alert, 177. You went to literally 185 today, 187 on the day. But again, AMD above 185 and holds, this thing's going ballistic. You literally have like nothing. So again, super bullish broad markets, very bullish pretty much on everything. CPI is the last roadblock. We get over that, it's game over. It's easy money, slim pickings. We're going up. I like what I see. Follow on Twitter. Do what you gotta do. If you're interested in Lux Algo, you're interested in Moomoo, all the sponsors, the links are down below. I appreciate you guys. See you tomorrow.